Hi, everybody. Frank Spicer, CEO of Metafide, wrapping up today's Metafide Spaces for Thursday, July 17th at 4 p.m. With us, we have Chief Business Development Officer Matt Cross, also co-founder, and Roaming Crypto, one of our trusty mods, star of the community. I just wanted to say hi to everybody out there. Thanks for coming by the Spaces today. Pretty lively discussion on price discovery and what it means for DeFi, what the DeFi markets could become. What did you take away from today's Spaces there, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, I think there was a lot of good information about what's currently going on in the market. We evaluated, Bitcoin reaching all-time highs right now. You had mentioned something about how there's still limited Bitcoin in circulation, probably only about 2 to 3 million, which I don't think a lot of people have woken up to that or realized it. And it seems like because of that, scarcity impending, you have some of these smaller ETFs who are moving into the space, buying up the Bitcoin, driving the price upwards. And then we also, for the first time now, have seen the price discovery again on Ethereum, where the price is, nearing all time highs. And, you see these SPAC treasury deals out there. They've been buying up ETH. They've been driving, some of the initial hype. It looks like Web3 VCs are investing in these SPACs, and then they're having them buy them as pseudo ETFs because we haven't had the approvals yet for these. So, maybe we're just seeing what it could look like when we have these ETFs approved. What is it going to look like for ETH, Solana, and some of these top assets? But I expect a bull run in the next coming months. Things are starting to heat up more, and I'm looking forward to what happens.
We had I was back and forth on the show today where we were asking, whether or not we thought other jurisdictions, other countries would start to make crypto assets available to their citizens through these new financial vehicles, right? ETFs and the such. Um, but Roaming took it upon himself to restate a very important point of crypto, which is that not your keys, not your crypto, right? You want to explain to people once again, Roaming, what you mean by that and why it's important that you custody your own keys?
Yeah, sure. I guess from my perspective, it's all about having control of what's important to me. There's a lot of uncertainty still around the space. A lot of countries are still deciding what approach they're going to take to crypto and how they're gonna manage that. And so, from my personal perspective, I like to be in control and have certainty around things that I rely on for my quality of life. I live within the Web3 space, and so I want to have know that I'm always going to have access to those funds and control of what's happening with them. So that's my stance on it, is that I want to make sure that the funds I have are in a space or in a wallet that I have control of and only I have control of. And then anything I'm using that money for, I'm giving some temporary permission to the services where that's needed, compared to a more centralized system of sort of traditional banking system.
Yeah, because if somebody says something that disparages your character, not that they ever would, but if they were to, they can't just go to your bank and be like, knock him out of the system. And that's not the way it works when it comes to crypto because you can say, well, you can't go to Mr. Bitcoin's office and shut it down, right? So
Exactly.
you gotta go around the world and shut down all the nodes, and it's a much harder process than just sending a bank saying like, we're gonna make it really hard for you if you don't drop them as a customer. So that's something to think about, especially if you live in a place where maybe, you know, if you were going to donate to, say, a truck drivers protest or something like that, they wouldn't be able to just go through your banking records and then hunt you down and kick you off the economic, system. Like that, just as a hypothetical example, like that wouldn't happen if you were transacting in Bitcoin and you were custodying your own keys and you had access to your own crypto. But just as an example. We also talked about what we thought DeFi looked like and would this push to mainstream crypto, which seems like we're entering a phase now with the introduction of the stablecoin acts and the Genius Act, making it more readily available for people to get access to stable tokens. And also because of that, they're probably going to move into other crypto assets as well. We talked about whether or not that means that you'll see people go around DeFi and get rid of it, or if DeFi would sort of persist. And I think you offered up a pretty interesting take on that. And maybe before I go, maybe you explain your view on that.
Yeah, cool. I think with anything to go mainstream, what generally drives that is convenience, right? People have busy lives, they're already thinking about a lot of things, and for someone to really take off, it generally has to be pretty easy for them to get involved in it. And the current state of DeFi has some obstacles to that. So I think as we move into a more mainstream model, the things that are going to take off the fastest are the easiest for those mainstream consumers to adopt. I think you put a very interesting packaging around that all as to what that may look like. Does that mean we move away from DeFi and those mainstream people have a more centralized system? Or does it mean something else with DeFi in the background and less obvious and a much more streamlined way to interact with that?
Yeah, and I'm going to tie it in with the point that Matt ended on, actually, where Matt, he put a series of points together. Basically, it was like, if you package things up in a way that people prefer to use them, in a way that's convenient and easy and familiar and improves their quality of life in a way that if you do that, people will use it. And I think if you just follow that logic, I think what you get is the application of these crypto assets becomes more integrated into what people are. And what's currently happening on DEXs, or decentralized exchanges, for everybody out there that's new to this, if what's the role that's being filled by DEXs, that's where crypto is at, I think that moves to the applications using these things, these digital assets, and then you'll see more and more value accrue to those. So the sort of the leading edge isn't going to be the exchanges, it'll be the application ecosystem that builds up around the assets. Because the point we made is nobody cares whether or not you use TCP/IP or for your networking. They just know you use networking. On top of that, you have Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Google, Twitter, X. And so when you look at that, I think that's the natural progression of the technology and the way people prefer to use it, to Matt's point. So combine those things, I think DeFi lives on, but it doesn't look like you currently see it. So I think that's where we left it. So I want to thank everybody for joining us. Join us next time, and catch you next week.
Catch you later, guys.
So the Surge game and platform is all about global human competition and refinement of AI models to predict near-term asset price movements. And instead of waiting for bids or asks to show up on exchanges, what we do is we combine the fast-paced gameplay of humans in a competitive environment, and then combine that with neural network predictions to make better positions in the market. Part of what makes that work is the tokenomics behind owning the FIDE AI token, as tokens are burned out of existence during each game, meaning they drive to compete for them. It ramps up as time goes on. But part of it is the math that we used in the payout calculation. And we built a model that works in any competitive market to reward the predictions, which are both precise and early. And the math incentivizes early competition in the game windows for the spot game, but rewards are much greater for that early precision. It's important to hedge in case the asset goes on a run or falls off a cliff, but generally speaking, the early bird gets the worm on the spot game. And your rewards are outsized when correct. It's the only place in the world right now where you can get fairly compensated for your alpha that you contribute. And so if you want to get involved, be sure to register on a pre-registration list. You get early access, amplified rewards. It's surge.metafide.io. That's surge.metafide, metafide.io. Surge.metafide.io. And I hope we get people in there, and I hope we get to see some new faces and people contributing to this, because it's a great experiment and we've had a lot of success, and we can't wait to bring it to the rest of the world.